Welcome home. I'm Dr.Thema, a minister, licensed psychologist, and sacred artist. And this is Homecoming, a podcast to facilitate your journey home to yourself. While I will provide weekly inspiration and mental health tips, this podcast is not the same as personalized therapy. I'm so excited you're on the journey. If you want to request specific topics or to submit a poem for me to read on the podcast, email me at homecomingpodcast@gmail.com. Also, to build our community, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let's begin. Welcome home, Cojourners. I'm glad you're here for another episode, and I am so excited for today's topic and for today's guest. And we're going to talk about holistic health, thinking about the connection between nutrition and your mental health. And I am grateful for our guest on today, who is not only a health educator, a health advocate, but also one who has his own story of reclaiming and re-understanding health holistically. So Harold, thank you so much for being with me.
Oh, wow, Dr. Thema. I am so excited to be here with you. Just honored that you would have me.
Well, you have a powerful, powerful story as a cancer survivor. And I wonder if you can start us off with talking us through your journey and how you reclaimed your health.
Yeah. So in 2015, I got the call that nobody wants to get. And that was that I had been diagnosed with cancer. And it was so interesting how it happened. I had no symptoms and I had gotten a new doctor. And you know how they ask you family history? Mm-hmm. And I had mistakenly told the doctor, they had asked me about high blood pressure and diabetes and cancer. Yeah. And at the time, I was living in a different state from where my dad lived. And I could have sworn he had told me he had had prostate cancer. And you know how my dad was just kind of cavalier. Yeah, I had prostate, and just kind of brushed it over. And so as she's talking to me, I told her, I said, well, my dad had prostate cancer, because I thought that's what he said. Yeah. So that's what prompted her to even test me, because at the time I was only 48. And they normally, if there's no family history, won't start testing you until 50. Okay. And so they tested me, and I didn't think anything about it. Sure. A week or so later, she called me and left a message, but I ignored it because I didn't even know, though, that she was giving me this test for.
You didn't even know?
I didn't even know. She just asked me history, and she went ahead and did the test and called me and said that my tests were irregular. And I'm like, what test are you talking about? And she said my PSA was elevated, and that sparked some concern. And she wanted me to go see a urologist, went and saw him, and he wanted me to have a biopsy. They did the biopsy. And about a week later, I got the call. And for me, I just remember being numb, and although I had, like, the year I got diagnosed with cancer, two of my friends who were a lot younger than me had died of cancer, but I just never thought it was going to come knocking at my door. Yeah. And I just remember my greatest concern was, how do I tell my son? Because I'm a single dad, and I'm on my son's hand. He was just getting ready to enter his senior year of high school. Oh, wow. Like, how do I tell him this without freaking him out? Yeah. Yeah. And so I remember just kind of having to get okay with myself. And this is when, I started leaning in on my spirituality, and in my faith. And I had to just really kind of talk myself through so that I could talk to him in a way that wouldn't frighten him. And I remember, telling him the diagnosis, and I remember him looking at me, like looking in my eyes to see if there was fear, He was looking in my eyes for comfort. Yeah. And I told him that, I was going to be okay, And And when I was telling him that, I don't know if I really believed it at that time, but
Yeah. If you were more so trying to assure him and yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I just remember after getting the diagnosis, the doctors wanted me to have surgery really quickly. They sent me to an oncologist, and nobody asked me about my lifestyle, what I was eating, what my stress level was. They're like, let's just get you into surgery and have the surgery. And I ended up just following what my doctor told me. And as a result of the surgery, I had every imaginable side effect. I had incontinence, I had erectile dysfunction, and my doctor just kept wanting to give me more pills. And I'm like, if I'm taking these pills, it's just covering up the symptoms. We need to deal with what's going on. And fortunately, I came across an herbalist who worked with individuals who had cancer diagnosis. And she began to talk to me about natural herbs. And she was like, you really shouldn't be eating meat or dairy. My doctors didn't tell me anything.
Never mentioned that. Yeah.
Never. And she also was talking to me about stress level. And for me, I grew up just pushing stuff down.
Yeah. Stress is the norm. You just keep it pushing.
Yeah. Because I grew up in Oakland in the projects. My dad was, I like to say, a pharmaceutical salesperson.
Okay. All right. Yes. So you're continuing the family business in a new iteration.
Right. And so my dad was addicted to heroin all during my youth, and he was abusive toward my mom. And I just remember as a kid never feeling safe. And my dad would beat up my mom, and then the next day we would just act like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And I remember just kind of going in, and I was a very sensitive kid. I was a very shy kid, and I never felt safe. I was always trying to gain acceptance because my parents, they weren't the lovey-dovey type. My parents never told me they loved me. I knew they did, but they never said it.
Yes.
And
so were you trying to get the love from them or from other people?
I was trying to get love from them at first.
Yeah.
But as I got older, I was trying to get it from other people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I ended up taking my son to therapy. I thought I was taking him for him.
Yes.
Really,
for you.
Yeah. And what I discovered when we were in therapy, well, one of the things that my son shared with the therapist was that my dad never tells me that he loves me.
Yeah.
That was so heavy for me because he was right.
Right. And you knew firsthand how much he would want that, right?
And yes, and how much I wanted it from my parents.
Right.
And here I am doing the same thing. And I didn't
realize it. Yeah.
I didn't realize it. And so that really helped me to see how, one, I was repeating the same cycle, but I had not dealt with a lot of the stuff that had occurred in my childhood that always kept me on like tense. I looked okay on the outside, but I was always tense.
Right.
So for me, cancer was really a wake-up call. It was like, it was a disruptor to my life,
Yes.
And it forced me to reconsider everything,
Yes.
And I started just doing research on like what causes cancer and, how to heal your body naturally. And I just started educating myself. And I was just so surprised at the deep connection between really our bodies and our health and what we put in it. And for me, I think I was like most of the people around me. I just ate what I grew up eating.
Right.
And not realizing, how harmful, it was for my body. And I was like, how is it that I don't know this?
Yes.
I went to college, I got a master's
Yes.
degree, but how do I not know how to
Yes.
take care of myself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the things that we often aren't taught directly and it's not modeled for us. And I just want to name how powerful it is that this life disruption was the
Mhm.
awakening. And I
Yeah.
think that sometimes when life gets turned upside down, we can, feel like we're abandoned or devastated. And all those things are a
Mhm.
part of it,
Right.
but how it can also be an opening to a different life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so as I'm learning more, slowly I'm starting to change what I was eating
Mm,
because it was a change for everyone around me too. Because when you
mm.
start changing,
Yeah.
people get uncomfortable
Yes.
with
Even if
you.
you don't say anything, if
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
change what you eat,
Right,
they feel they
right,
have to defend or
right.
explain or make a
Yeah,
joke or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember going to my godmother's for holiday. It was Thanksgiving, and I had already eaten because I knew I wasn't going to,
Mm.
was changing my diet, and I just
Yeah.
wanted to come and just be around them.
Yes.
But there was this sense of, it was like they were almost offended that I wasn't eating a macaroni and cheese. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm trying to work on my healing. I'm here
Yes.
to just to be,
With
you
you
know,
all.
with you all.
Yes.
Yeah. But I realized that we do so much around food. We
It's true.
romanticize around food. We
Hmm.
socialize. We grieve around food.
Yes. We
And
say,
we
I
don't
love you through food,
do
right?
food.
They don't
Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
words, but they'll give you the plate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so for me, it was really a slow journey in terms
Hmm.
of, like, as I'm learning more about things that are not healthy for my body, most of the stuff that I was eating all the time, I'm learning that some of the foods that are common in our country are actually banned in other countries. And I'm like, well, why? Huh?
It's amazing. When I saw your post on that, it's so remarkable what is allowed here with all of our advances, with all of our
Right.
science. It lets you see the political and monetary aspect of
Yeah.
it. And, the piece of like, do these regulatory bodies, does our government actually care
Right.
about our health and our very lives? The fact that other nations say this is unacceptable for food,
Right.
right? This is
Yeah.
poison, and then we
Right.
can just buy it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
easily, readily
Mhm.
available,
Yes.
And unfortunately, places like California, they're now starting with, like, with Prop 65, at
Uh-huh.
least
They'll have the
labeling it with the
notice on
warning.
it.
Yeah, at
Yes.
least you see that. And, even if you don't adhere or do anything, at least
You saw it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. I saw that just the other day, even on a seaweed packet. Usually you think
Hmm.
like a healthy snack, it's like a
Yeah.
little flavored seaweed.
Hmm.
And when I saw the warning, I said, oh my goodness.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for
Hmm.
me, it really prompted me to really start reading my labels.
Yes.
And like, if it's something I don't understand, just Googling to see, okay, what is this? You know,
Yes.
and I never intended to become like plant-based. That was never
Hmm.
my intention. I just wanted to feel better and I wanted to heal.
Yes.
And I just started slowly, incorporating more fruits and vegetables in my diet because I didn't grow up eating that. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
that just,
Yes.
I grew up during the era where they said milk does the body good.
Hmm.
That's the era, and I
Yes.
drank a lot of milk and ate a lot of ice cream and all of
Hmm.
those things that really were harmful to my
Yeah.
body.
Mhm, mhm. So how long has it been now?
So I've been cancer free now over 7 years.
Ah, beautiful.
Yeah. And all of the issues that I had, the erectile dysfunction, the incontinence, all of that healed without any medication.
Mm,
And my doctors, they were surprised when I
yeah.
came back, and they're like, well, what did you do? And I was like, well, I started eating differently and I started
Mm,
nourishing my body differently,
mhm.
and I was also surprised during my research to find that only about 20% of medical schools require medical students to take a single class in nutrition. So they
Wow.
just don't know. A
Right.
lot
So
of
they
times.
have to memorize the disorders or the illnesses and the surgeries, their
Yeah,
medical intervention,
yeah,
not any of the
yeah.
natural.
Right, right, right. And so once I saw what happened to me when I changed my diet, I'm like, well, let me try to tell some other people
Yes.
that, and not trying to push anybody to, eat plant-based or eat a certain way. One of the things that I always say to people is that I had never felt as good as I did when I started nourishing my body with, plants and fruit. I never, and if I felt almost like I was living in a fog, for 40 years because
Yes.
a lot of the stuff that I was consuming, the sugar and all, I just always remember feeling when I would eat it, I would feel lethargic, have brain fog.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact of food on our body is incredible.
Yeah.
It is incredible. And I always say to people now, nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. It
Yes.
not a piece of rib, a piece of it just
Yes.
it doesn't.
Oh, that's so key is noticing the difference in yourself. So it's one thing, and you do want doctors to be able to notice. And I know when you go in for
Mhm.
your test, they can see your various scores and say you're looking
Yeah.
good. But I love that you don't even have to wait just for the doctor to say it. You actually felt it. You feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
felt it. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I wish I would have felt this way,
Years ago.
years ago. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And then you know what?
No, I just was going to ask, and it may be just because it feels good, but so many people can do like, or try to do New Year's resolution or like these kind of short term changes. And you're talking about years. So, what helps you to maintain it over time?
One of the things that I discovered is that once I started nourishing my body with healthy nutrients, a lot of the cravings that a lot of people say they have, you don't have because a lot of times our body is craving nutrients, but we're just feeding our bodies these empty calories and a
Yeah.
lot of empty calories. And so I don't have any of those like
Mm-hmm.
cravings. Like now I can see, all the food commercials. And you know what? One of the good things that I think for me on my journey was for years I didn't have a TV in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't see all the commercials. So I wasn't
Yeah.
triggered. I didn't see the Red Lobster commercial, the burger. So those things weren't in my
Yeah.
house.
Ah.
And that really was beneficial for
Mm-hmm.
me, as I was, as my body was healing.
And it is amazing, as you're saying, that our tastes do change. And
Hmm.
I noticed once I came off of sugar, like things taste too sweet. Like
Yeah.
you can't even eat it. It's like
Right.
for that, super, super sweet tea. I'm like, no, I don't need any sugar for my tea. Whereas before it will be like, who's gonna drink this?
Right, right, right.
But your tastes adjust.
Yeah, they definitely
Hmm.
do. Because
Hmm.
I mean, if you would have said to me 11 years ago, that I would be plant-based, there's no way, because I couldn't even imagine it. I couldn't
Right.
even fathom not eating ribs or
Hmm.
ice cream and macaroni and cheese,
Yes. Yeah.
eggs. I couldn't even imagine that. And
Hmm.
now, it's not even a thought to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what would you say to people who are listening and they put you or me or other people in this category of
Mm.
you just have the capacity to transform,
Mhm.
but they may be feeling hopeless or helpless or powerless to
Mhm.
take ownership of their health?
Mhm. What I would say is that change is possible.
Mm,
I'm a living witness that change is possible. And for me, I always just encourage people to start where they are, you
yeah.
know, and start with starting your day off with something healthy, a smoothie, fruit, because oftentimes that'll impact your craving throughout the day. But
Yeah.
start just with your first meal of the day, make it something healthy and see how you feel. Just see how you feel.
Yes. And I love that, start where you are and start
Hmm.
small,
Hmm.
because sometimes we have it so large in our mind. Like you said before,
Right.
it would seem impossible to you. And
Right.
then
Yeah.
you just get there. And
Yeah.
I think a part of it, of course, you have your physical health benefits, but can you share some about the mental and spiritual health benefits?
So, the first time I did a juice cleanse when I first moved here to Charlotte. And at the time, that was almost 4 years ago. I was still trying to kind of figure out what I was going to do with my life. If I was 52 or 53, I'm still trying to figure out, okay, what am I doing here? What am I going to do? So I did this juice fast.
Hmm.
And initially, I was going to do it for about 2 weeks. And it was during that juice fast that I started to just gain clarity and gain insight. And it was just like I was having all these ideas, these business ideas. And it's just like all of that happened during a juice fast. And that was the first time I'd ever done a juice fast.
Mm.
And I just believe that, when we just fuel our body with nature, the stuff that comes from the earth,
Yeah.
it does something for us.
So that clarity and being able to operate at your best,
Yeah.
instead of like when we're running on fumes or running
Right.
on junk, or even a lot of that stuff puts you to sleep. So
Right.
you don't even
Yeah.
have the energy to
Right.
live fully.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So, it was during that juice fast that I started a supplement company because there were a lot of supplements that I took during my healing journey that some people weren't aware of. And
Yeah.
so during that fast, I came up with the idea for the business, and the business has been doing so well.
Excellent.
And just happy that I'm able to help introduce people to other possibilities.
And then you're also an author.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
tell us about
yeah,
your book.
yeah. So I've written 4 books, and
Excellent.
one of the books that I wrote when I was going through my healing experience was a book. Is a book called "I Am Enough,"
Mm.
because most of my life I never felt like I was enough,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I knew that that was a part of my healing, getting to the place where I realized that I didn't have anything to prove, defend, or protect.
Mm.
That
Mm.
just
Say
as
that
I
again.
I didn't have anything to prove, defend, or protect.
Yes.
And most of my life, I was trying to do those
Yeah.
things.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wrote that book, it was really kind of me writing to myself, you
Mm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and helping me to realize that, I am enough. And I would say that to myself
Yes.
when I was going through my cancer experience. I would put little post-its on the mirror in my
Mm.
bathroom because I'd be in so much pain. I didn't
Yeah.
want my son to hear me. So I go into
Mm.
the bathroom and just let out my scream, but I would put little
Yeah.
post-its just to say affirmations to remind
Mm-hmm.
myself that, I'm enough. And then I would bring
Mm-hmm.
up some of, the things I would hear in church that said that this
Mm-hmm.
too shall pass. And I would
Yes.
just talk to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that book is really about just reminding ourselves of
Mm.
our value and our worth. And it's not tied to anything external.
Mm-hmm.
Just as you are enough.
Mm. Wow. So, so beautiful and powerful. I know people will want to access your various offerings. So tell people about your website and how they can find you in social media.
So my website is The Good Living Now,
Mm.
thegoodlivingnow.com.
Yes.
On social media, on Instagram, it's just my name, Harold LaFall. And on YouTube, it's Good Living Now with Harold. And on TikTok, it's The Juice Guy.
Yes. And you have just finished leading people through Juice Fast. And so
Yeah,
people
21
who
day.
start 21 days,
Yeah.
those who start following you now, they can look for the next one, or look
Yeah.
at the past post to get the instructions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So many
Wow.
people during that 21 day just talked about all of the mental breakthroughs that they had in addition to losing weight and just feeling better. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really the whole goal. And it's really those resets are really to disrupt our norm so that we can then begin to incorporate more healthier foods into our diet. Not that you're going to change everything, but it's a disruptor just to help
Yes.
people, you know.
Yes. Well, I am so grateful to you coming on today, sharing with us your testimony, and so excited about your books and the ways in which you are being generous with the knowledge you have gained to pass it on to us through social media, through the books, through the various fasts. And I know that as we grow and evolve and heal, we get to see how interconnected all of these parts of ourselves are and really embrace holistic health so that it's
Mhm.
not just a mind shift, but mind, body, heart, spirit, community, all of the things. So thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And to our co-journers, I invite your soul to tell your heart, mind, body, and spirit, welcome home.